My name is Art. This is a PPI Round Table today. I have Mr. Ward, Tim Ward from Safari Towing in Texas joining us, and I have Jason Lind from Albron's Towing in Northern California, my neighbor, joining us. Guys, it's great to have you both.
Thank
Hello.
you.
All right. So today, again, PPI Roundtable. We're going to be talking about some specific challenges in the private property impound segment of towing. And I'll just go ahead and get this started. The first thing I want to know, and I have some ideas of this, but I want all the listeners to learn about you guys as well, is this is for both of you guys. How much of your business is private property impound? And if it's not strictly private property impound, what else do you do? Tim, let's start with you.
Well, we went from being a general towing company, and then just before COVID hit, I think I told you this before, we started cutting back. We were one of the largest motor club providers in North Texas, doing over 3,000 motor club calls a month.
Wow.
And after we sat down with our accountant, we figured this is no bueno. It built us a good business, a good structure. We capitalized off the low paying calls to get shops. We have 900 shop accounts.
Wow.
And then when COVID hit and no one drove, we built up our impound business. So we're probably doing 80% or more impounds.
Okay.
10% are still privates. We still got I got a 15-year-old phone number that rings every day for privates. But we build them out. We've started building everything out at impound rates, which here in Texas is 272.
Got it. Okay.
You know.
All right. So 85% private property impound. Do you do police impounds as well?
No, we don't do any police contracts.
Okay. All right, Jason, what about you, man?
So we're 100% PPI. I back when Max, first started with the company, he was doing roadside and everything else. And I even started another towing company while working with Max, trying to do roadside, and it doesn't work. You got to stick with one industry and just capitalize on it and be the king of that industry. That's how I see it. But ours is 100% PPI.
Nice. Yeah, and for the listeners out there that don't know, my company as well, 100% private property impound. Although I have a history in the past of doing, police work, motor club work as well. I stopped doing all the other type of towing probably 13, 14 years ago. I want to express, kind of in agreement with you guys. The other type of work is very, very challenging. Personally, for me, I've seen a lot of benefits since I decided to specialize because, I'll outline a few, and I'm sure the listeners will probably agree, but I train my drivers to do one thing now. It's like, if we hook up to a car, it's only going one place. So it's much easier to train your crew for that purpose. All of our training manuals that we have for our staff are dedicated to one type of towing. It just makes it streamlined and a lot easier. I'm sure you guys probably would experience the same thing. Am I right?
I agree.
Yeah. Making the process and throwing dollies is easier when you're bringing it home every time.
So. Right. Yeah, that's right. So, like the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is kind of broad, but like we've had multiple guests on the show, and like we talk off camera, we talk on camera, we talk at the tow shows, and I get to learn a lot. And that's one of the benefits, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is like talking to different people from different parts of the country. So, right now, obviously, Tim, you're from Texas. I'm sure you guys face different laws and so on and so forth. Jason, you're from California. You and I have to sort of grapple with this same types of laws and issues, but obviously our business is mostly PPI, but what do you guys, what kind of unique challenges, Tim, do you think you face in Texas that maybe a California tower like Jason and I doesn't have to? Like, what kind of challenges do you face?
Honestly, I think we're all pretty generic. We face the same stuff. We have we're regulated by the state of Texas. I'm sure you're regulated by the state of California. Our prices are regulated. Our procedures are, everything's pretty much we do have a JP court, justice of the peace court system. So for $40, you can challenge the validity of the tow in
Right.
JP court, and a lot of people do that, and they lose.
Yeah.
Because we document everything. We take pictures of everything. We document. GPS. People don't understand the technology that goes into our systems,
Right.
and being scrutinized, and we're the bad boy. We're always the bad guys.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We're
And
not
look,
getting any love from the judges, man. Yeah.
no love,
No.
no love.
That's a good point. That's one of the biggest challenges I feel that I have to face with. I mean, I'm going to court at least once to two times a month, and it was for a little while. Every week I was going to court.
Mm-hmm.
I get different judges all the time, and there's different arguments that come up that they are suing me for XYZ, right? And when
Sure.
it gets to court, they're talking about a whole nother thing. And I have some judges that feel their pain and don't award them the whole money that they're asking, but give them back the tow, and
Yeah.
it kind of it does, because I'm like, why we didn't do anything wrong, here and there. But I get a lot of that. And I wish there was something that could stop them from always, suing us in those matters, because they're really just upset.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Like, so to your point, Tim, we have a process in California. It's called small claims court. I think it's like any issue under $10,000 or something like that. It used to be 5. I think it's 10 now. But yeah, we much like Jason said, we go once, twice a month. We're doing private property towing at scale. So there's really no way to avoid, like, you're going to go once or twice a month if you're doing this at scale. And oftentimes the judges in the small claim system, there's sort of like maybe like an emotional thing where they're like, oh, this person, they're not a means, and we want to side with them, despite the fact that the towing company is working for the property owner. Like, the property owner is saying, tow this car, we tow that car. And so, but when you get one that knows how it works, because oftentimes they're just volunteering. The small claims judges in our state,
Yes,
they're just volunteers. And so I don't expect all of them to understand the towing laws, but they'll sort of ask some questions, and they don't understand that we shouldn't even be in court. The owner of the vehicle, you live there, you agreed to the parking rules, you got towed. We're just a vendor for the property manager. So sometimes the judges, and sometimes they're like activist judges, right? They're like, oh, the evil tow company, they just sort of paint us as this evil, entity or business, when in fact, hey, we got hired. We were told to tow this car. We don't just decide willy-nilly, we're going to tow a car for no reason. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge, and I experience the same, level of challenges that you guys do. Obviously, I'm sure both of you would agree that training, documentation, the use of software to document, hey, because, and let's be honest, guys, sometimes they want to challenge the tow, but many times it's, oh, they damaged my car. Oh, they did this. Oh, my check engine light is on now. My radio doesn't work. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard some crazy stuff, right? But so I think we can all agree that, training, the use of technology, Tim, like you brought up, taking those timestamp photos, using a software that helps you export that information. Because when we go to small claims court, the judge is not going to want to look at a tablet. He wants something printed out and given to him, right? So, we'll export the photos via PDF. We'll export all the documented states that led to the tow of that car, the reporting of the violation, etc. So I imagine you guys also agree that, hey, this stuff makes a big difference when you walk into that courtroom. Am I right?
100%. 100%. I like to email everything to the court before I go there, so we have the pictures, we have the authorization, we have, every step by step of the tow is in Tow Club. That's the software that we use. But yeah, I mean, it makes a giant difference, than having to write tags and post them on the board. It all, there's a whole lot that comes along with having a software.
Tim, how do you bring that information into the courthouse with you?
Same way, our courthouses and have been updated. We can plug in, or we bring copies of everything, throw it down on a projector, which then puts it up on a big TV screen or on the wall. And you're right, a lot of the judges don't understand, but over the past several years, we've taken the time to share with them the towing rules and regulations of Texas, so that they don't have to look it up, or if they know right where to look it up, because
Right.
we're regulated on every degree. We have to call the car in within an hour. We have to send out certified mail, in a timeline and all
Right.
that fun stuff. And you're right. A lot of these courts are hurt feelings.
Yeah.
I wish we could have a hurt feelings court. You know,
we would
uh,
we would lose every case if they had a feelings court.
well,
You
it
know?
depends who's judging it. Okay.
Nobody is cheerleading. Nobody is looking out for our interests. We have to,
No.
like you guys said, we have to cross the T's, dot the I's,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to say, and this is a little biased, because I'm involved with Tow Club, but for us, I'll just say, and this was going to be something that I wanted to talk about in general, but you know, the software, it helps automate some of those points, because in the past, and I'm sure you both can speak to the same experience, but when I first started doing this, much like Jason said, I was going to court pretty often. So now it's like I want to say it's like 15 to 20 times a year now. But there
Wow.
was a point 10 years ago where it was probably 5 times a month, and 4 or 5, 6 times a month. And there was also a point where out of 100 times, let's say I went, we would lose 2 times, 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
And we subsequently hired an attorney to help us, not necessarily represent us, because these are small claims court cases, so the attorney's not going with you, but to help us build out our operations to avoid losing, like make sure you get XYZ so that you can present that, right? And it's not just somebody's word, it's actually documented. So what I wanted to really kind of bring up to you guys is like how our software, and I don't mean Tow Club is the only software out there that does this, but for Jason and I think we could probably speak to that. But software in general, how it's helped you get a better batting average with respect to going to court. Tim, I want to start with you. What do you how has that helped you?
Well, it's night and day with the courts and the property owners. We've had so many property owners, because we share the app and we give them access to certain parts of the app where they can check in and see what we're doing, see what we're tagging, because we do a lot of warning stickers.
Got it.
Okay. I like warning stickers because I call that farming. So the
Right.
technologies allows us to a lot of our properties to be more compassionate with 24, 48-hour warnings. In Texas, if it's expired registration, you got to give them a 10-day notice.
Okay.
So and in Texas, you're allowed to make that big orange sticker on the windshield your 10-day notice, your
Got it.
legal notice.
Wow.
That in 10 days, we can now tow your car for expired registration.
Got it.
And the property management love it, because now it gives them backup to when the resident comes in and says these guys are focused on me or they're picking on me or whatever, and they said no, they gave you two warning stickers and you did nothing.
Right.
They gave you notice, and then we have our pictures to document everything. And guess what?
Yeah.
Here's the invoice, here's the timestamp, here's the pictures, and it's in the cloud forever.
Yep.
So, and I like it because I can go through and I can find a car. We've had problem accounts where the people move from apartment to apartment, from apartment complex to another apartment community, and as soon as their name or their license plate pops up, we can see their entire history of that car.
Got it.
Not their name, but their license plate. Everything
Sure.
we do, and now we run all the permits are their license plate number is their permit.
Right.
So it just
So it's
streamlines everything.
like a virtual permit, which I think we can all agree is more effective, right? Because the physical permit, there seems to be a lot of people that would say, oh, my dog ate it, or someone broke into my car. We got this one a few weeks back, and I've gotten it before. I'm sure you guys have heard all the stories, all the excuses, but oh, someone broke into my car and stole my permit 2 weeks ago. Well, your car got towed last night. Did you
Yeah.
ask for a new permit? Did you request a new permit? Did you reach out to anyone? No, I didn't. Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of, you got to bear some of the responsibility. Jason, what do you think software has done for your guys' operation? I happen to know this, but why don't you share your experience in terms of like how much better and more defendable your work has become as a result of software?
Well, when it comes to defending part, yeah, like it's turnkey. I have everything right there documentized. I can look it up from my phone, from my laptop, from wherever I'm at if I need to take care of something. But with it helping the business, the old practices, the driver's out towing a vehicle, they come in to they drop the car at the yard, they have to run in the office, write up their tag, put the tag on the wall. It's all time right now. They've already entered everything in the system. We already know the car's coming to the yard. We know it's in the system if they're calling right, because they usually call right away sometimes, most of the time. And the driver just comes, drops the car, and he's back out on the road, right? So that streamline of time has made a big difference. Even with leaning vehicles and that whole process. I used to call Pat's Leans, give them every VIN number for every vehicle that that we towed.
It would take you all day.
Oh yeah, I had to dedicate one day just to do that. You know what I mean? Or at least hire somebody extra to do that. Right now, it's basically you just hit a button. It's ready to go, ready to lean. And a good thing, connecting it to the auction site to get it auction. Like the whole streamline of the business. We want to save as much time and have less workers in the office. But fortunately, in the business that we're in, you got to answer the phones. You got to deal with IRAT people. IRAT people, and whatnot. So
no, thank you, Jason. And for those of you that are listening that are not California towers, what Jason's discussing is, and many of you in other states do a similar process, but in California we call it a lien sale application. So there are providers that do that for the towing industry, and the development team at Tow Club was able to integrate with those providers, so that when we tow a vehicle and it shows up in our inventory in Tow Club, we just go to that vehicle. We set a time in California at 72 hours, and it notifies you, hey, you need to place a lien against this vehicle, or would you like to? And then we just hit a button. The next day, the lien sale paperwork and documentation is in the vehicle file, and it populates an auction listing. You can push out to an auction platform. So we're dedicated to automating these features so that towers, like as Jason just brought up, don't have to do it the archaic way, which involves, a separate email or reciting a VIN number over the phone. And it eliminates, obviously, some potential for human error in that process. I wanted to ask you both, I mean, this is going to fall a little differently when Jason says this, but I'll start with Tim. What do you guys think can be done in the software space what would your wish list be for your towing software if you had to want something? What would you think that would be, Tim?
Well, Art, you have taken towing software to a new level. Okay.
Thanks.
And I've known you
Not
for
me, it's
what?
the development team, but yeah,
Development
I'm
team.
on the
But
sideline.
listen, but you had the initiative to want better. And I used the same software over the years. I'm still using the other one. And I kind of married to them, let's say, for the time being.
Sure.
But just continuously updating. One of my biggest things is when I dealt with the other software company, those software guys were not tow guys. They had no clue what's going on in the truck. And I got them to ride with me or listen to me and say, listen, dude, I need one, taking pictures. I want one button picture, man. I don't want to hit save. Do you want to save this? I don't want that. I want
Right.
point, click, picture. And they didn't understand that. I said, I'm walking around the car going click, 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 click. I don't want to have to approve every picture. Those
Yeah.
stupid little things make a difference. You being a toe op, you know what you wanted, and over the 15 years that I've known you, you and I've discussed this many times. You've just made things better and better and better.
I mean, that's the goal. And like I gotta give credit. Just our lead developer, for example, Jason knows him very well. I know him for a long time. He's a very dear friend. But to give the listeners some context here and to follow up on what you said, first of all, thank you, Tim. But just for people to sort of understand and ask yourself, if you're a listener, in what world would a software developer spend 2, 3, 4 years in a tow truck riding with drivers, trying to figure out what their challenges are, and then incorporating answers within the product. So I'm not going to spill the beans on every feature here. We don't have enough time for that, but just for the listeners to understand that in addition to my sort of contributions in terms of ideas within the product, those are just in the idea stage. Our lead developer spent thousands of hours in a tow truck. This is not just like pie in the sky stuff. Like his butt was in the seat of tow trucks for thousands of hours. So that contributed to the product. But Jason, I wanted to ask you, and this is going to ring different because you use Tow Club currently, but if you had some of the things that you've contributed to the product have actually come into play, but if you had to look at the current landscape, like what would you want with a software?
It is hard to say because I have been there on the step of the way with Tow Club, and Michael's, excuse me, he's done a phenomenal job, right?
Yeah.
And Tow Club's done a phenomenal job, and I wouldn't change too much of it because I've also tried Towbook, I've tried other platforms, Roadsider, different platforms for to see what the difference is in the response in somebody actually riding in a tow truck for that many years and learning this industry and learning how to develop and what the towers need is that's the best thing you could ever done. I mean, and now the only thing I wish there was a button to change in Tow Club would be from military time to standard time, because some of the drivers get times confused all the time. I got to correct it a lot, but other than that, Tow Club is awesome. I love it.
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that, the development team that's directed by Michael, I think has a lot in process right now. And so if I would like to encourage you both to just kind of like keep track of what we're doing. We're going to continue, in my opinion, and I haven't had pushback from the rest of the team at Tow Club. I think that they all understand that software is changing rapidly. We have a rapid sort of entry of AI into software products to make things better. We're going to continue to want to take advantage of that. But more importantly, the development team spends a lot of time with me. And the time that they spend with me is in the context of me running this business, running my towing business. And because of that, I look at the landscape in other sectors. A lot of the ideas that we get come from other sectors. This is not just like, oh, I'm watching what other towers are doing. And the reason is because I have personally been disappointed at the rate of innovation in the towing industry. So what I've done is, for example, when we talked about a payment integration in the past, I looked at what the big box stores were doing. How is their POS system? How is their payment system working in conjunction with that? Our payment integration took some ideas from that. Now what we're looking to do is we're saying, hey, labor is difficult for the towing industry, right? They need to do more with less. Their costs are increasing. Fuel, the cost of equipment. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this show. So what are we going to do to help towers do more with less? So when we talk about, for example, before we got started here, the subject came up, the automated vehicle release kiosk. That sounds crazy. People have told me you're out of your mind. We're gonna do it. It's not
Mhm.
if, it's a when. There are still a lot of things to be worked out, but it is something that is in the queue. So I'd like to encourage you guys to keep track of what we're doing and follow along. Um, with respect to software, there are some other things that I just wanted to kind of maybe bring up to you guys and ask you guys. Tim, what is your mix of fleet? In other words, carriers, auto loaders, light duty, heavy duty. What is your fleet mix? How many units total, and what are they?
Well, we're down to basically 2 trucks, and it's light duty wreckers,
Auto
self
loaders.
loaders.
Okay.
We sub everything out. You know, I got injured back in June, right?
Oh,
I was in a accident, so I broke my back. So I haven't been in a truck since June 26th. So I'm recuperating, but we downsized tremendously. We teamed up. We made partnerships with a few other companies.
okay.
So we still impound heavy duties every day. We still move boxes or whatever every day. We just sub it out and take a little smaller chunk.
Sure.
So insurance is ridiculous.
Yes.
Hiring drivers is ridiculous.
Agree.
You know, I've had some of the best drivers work for me over the years, and then one day they're oh, I got to move to Nebraska. You know,
Sure.
so labor issues. You know, but I like self loaders.
Yep.
Uh,
Me
the
too.
brands, I'm indifferent to the brands because I also have a repair shop,
Got it.
and so, but I like you. I'm sure you like all your Fords. You
Yeah.
know, I like Dodge Rams.
Yeah.
Right now, I got a Hemi and a diesel.
Got it.
So,
So
I
you went
I
auto loaders, and so you're maintaining those two auto loaders, and
yeah,
I'm sure the software you're using has a provision to kind of track your fleet. That's something that we've really improved upon in Tow Club is the software that
yes.
tracks your fleet, your maintenance,
Yes,
locate.
the daily, we are required to do a daily inspection, walk
Right.
around, pictures, mileage. You know, I can look in the app. Listen, when I was in the hospital for 2 months, I'm looking at the app, and my brother's running the company. He's at at the office and doing everything at there. And I'll be like, hey, unit 47 needs an oil change. He's
Sure.
like, how do you know? I'm like, I'm looking at the app. You
Got a
know,
notification. Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
a notification. You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, he's like, well, thanks. No,
No, that's
he's
good. So
like,
I mean, that tells a great story, which is you're using the software to help you manage the fleet. Jason,
mhm.
what's your fleet mix? I kind of have an idea, but go ahead.
I mean, we pretty much have all auto loaders. We have one medium duty. So we got about 13, I think, auto loaders, one medium duty. You know, we have a mix between Ford and Dodge. I personally like Ford. I like the turning radius. I like a Jerdan and a Dynamic. Jerdan and Dynamic are my two favorite trucks. You know, but yeah, I mean, pretty much that's what we use. I mean, the software too with so what we've done, because like I said, I liked our drivers to be in the truck and go and you know out there getting cars as fast as possible all the time, right? Uh, we hired an in-house mechanic that you know he's on the books with us. He's putting everything in the software, checking the software, update, you know, oil change time for this truck. He's to each one of our locations. We have 4 locations, so and we're pretty spread out through the Bay Area, Tri Valley, and Central Valley, right? Which is a lot, but you know, having that one mechanic that is dedicated to the business, working on the trucks, and is changed a lot because now, I mean, I like the guys to check their equipment. I like them to check the oil and the, you know, I like to make sure the trucks are good. That's the everyday inspections. You know, it's mandatory, right? But having an in-house mechanic that's constantly maintaining the trucks at all the time and being there if something happens with the truck right away is changed the game a lot.
Yeah.
Listen, Jason, you're 100% right. At one point, I had 18 trucks, and we had a little shop, and I ended up buying a hydraulic hose machine because guess what? We're blowing hydraulic hoses every other day. And when you have that many trucks, guess what? I want my trucks fixed fast. I'm not a dealership. I'm not a dealership guy. I'm not a drop it off. We'll get to it next week. Usually,
Yeah, you're
all
gonna
my
wait.
trucks, I still have the hydraulic shop, the welding shop. If a truck goes down, it's usually fixed within hours.
Yeah.
And we fix other companies' trucks too. You
Yeah.
Oh
know,
yeah, that's good.
I was looking at, I drove by my shop the other day and there's two other companies' tow trucks sitting there. And I call
Yeah.
them up. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? They're like, oh, you see my truck? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And just wear and tear.
Yeah.
The guy didn't have a maintenance program. The truck was literally a brand new 2024 with 40 something thousand miles on it, never been greased. Okay.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yes. And they're a high volume shop. He's doing 15 impounds a day, and he just wore parts out and broke stuff and overloaded it. But moral of the story was we had, like you said, Jason, on-site mechanic, on-site repairs, fix your gear right away, because when the pressure's on, it's on.
Yeah,
And
you need that
and
truck. You need that truck back on the road as fast as possible. I don't.
Yeah.
and
I don't want a down truck. We also
I don't.
keep a backup always. We rotate a backup through yards, right? So
Yes.
if we know a truck went down over here, we send the backup to that yard and repair
Yeah.
that one, and then
Well, that's why I started networking with other companies years ago when we started selling off a bunch of our fleet. We leased a lot of stuff. We did a lease program, a 3-year lease program, let's say, an experimental, and it just happened to hit when COVID hit, and it saved
yeah,
us. When you call up and say, "Hey, come pick up these 5 trucks," and they're like, "No, we don't want them." I'm like, "Guess what? COVID's here. Our call volume went from 100 calls a day to 3. We're done. Take them back." you
yeah,
know but just
That's
just
I think you guys are basically demonstrating the importance of keeping track of your fleet and your software so that you don't have a lot of trucks go down. Most of the time that you want spent is on regular maintenance. I mean, as to my fleet and my towing company, we're 10 auto loaders. They're all Fords. They're all gas. They all have Miller Industries auto load beds. They've been good for us. But yeah, we don't have a carrier. We just because we just do one type of work. And so I think, we also use Tow Club, obviously, to track our fleet and to notify us when there's a need for maintenance. The drivers do the daily inspection reports before they use the truck within the app. Our development team has created a provision in the software so that, a tower could just go into the app. They could choose what their inspection report looks like. Any issues are reportable on that report. I wanted to ask something because obviously all three of us are primarily, for the most part, doing PPI, if not only PPI. How do your customers, to what degree are they using your towing software? In other words, Tim, I know your customers have access. Are they requesting tows through the software? Are they sending
yes.
messages? Okay, so they are.
Yeah. well
Okay.
well we set we have our permit program, and we developed a link so that the managers give a link to the new resident. It's on top of the resident's responsibility to sign up their car. Everything goes into the database, all the property to all the rules. The rules for each property is put into the database. Some managers are very active and some don't care, you
Yeah.
know. So the software works itself out. That's because that still gives us a job, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Me and my brother or one of the staff would go out, visit properties. My brother's always been good with that, visiting properties, take caring of the stuff,
Sure.
visiting all
Customer
the different
service.
ones,
Customer service.
training them. But once we started telling the managers, listen, you don't have to do a permit program. Right here's a link. Give this to every one of your residents. You have 300 apartments, 400 apartments. Here's give them the rules. We would do notices, email blasts. We put notices on doors and give everybody a couple weeks to get into the system. And then we would spend, a month, let's say, of just warning stickers to get
Yeah.
everybody in the program. And the managers a lot of the managers were very skeptical or wary of the situation. But once they got their hands on it, they're like, "Oh, this ain't hard. This is
Right.
easy." We're like, "Hey," and
Yeah.
we have a couple managers that I'm sure they look at it as a news update every morning. Like, what did you do at my property last night?
Right.
Or did you get that car I want you to get? You
Right.
know, what's
Okay,
going on?
yeah, Jason, how are your customers using Tow Club?
So I'm pretty strict when it comes to setting up a new property or even reaching out to old properties. I want them to set up an account through the system. They can go on our website, click log in, and go ahead and create an account. And then we have a notice to tenants on our website. It's also in Tow Club. They can blast that out to the residents. I like to, once they sign up, I'll show up at their office, and then I'll help them. I'll kind of walk them through how the system works on their computer. I'll help them download the app on their phone. I like it when they stay active. I want them using the system as much as possible because it takes a lot of headaches away from me having to answer questions and respond to emails and whatnot. But we get tow requests. Not as much as I would want. We still got to find cars, still got to go out there and do your regular inspections, right? But for the most part, them being able to look up what happened on their property the night before, in the morning when they get there, they're bombarded with residents, is great, so they can look it up and say, hey, well, you were in a fire lane, nothing I can do to help you. You're gonna have to talk to the towing company, right? Because they got to stay customer service orientated with their residents,
Yeah, they
right?
have to be neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course we got to be professional also, but at the end of the day, we're always going to be the bad guys. They're always going to come down yelling and screaming at us, right? But we want to take that away from them as much as possible, but them using the system is 100%. I love it. I love that idea.
Yeah. So no, that's an interesting point, Jason. I mean, for us, obviously we've been using Tow Club for about the same time as you, 5-6 years, and um, it was challenging in the beginning to
Yeah.
explain to property managers, hey, download this app, this mobile app, and then just request service. And I would say the first year or two, it was probably like 2% of our customers were doing it. And then every year, a few more percentage. So it's hard for me to say exactly right now, but I think we have about 1,400 clients. And I would say a few hundred are regularly using the app to request tows or to look up a vehicle that's towed, because obviously everybody knows, and you guys know, the first thing that happens when somebody who lives in a apartment community gets towed, the first thing they do is they go storming down to the property manager's office and accuse them of all kinds of nonsense. And the property managers, what we've learned over the years is, hey, they log in to the app, they check the app, like, oh, hey, Mr. Jones, you were towed. Sorry. Let me look it up. And then they look at the pictures like, hey man, like this is how, you were parked in the disabled stall with no disabled placard. That's why your vehicle was towed. And they're able to combat the fire breathing dragon, right? That's in front of them.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's been really good for us. Jason, I know it's been good for you. And Tim, I imagine you have the same experience. I mean, once you could
Yep.
document the violations accordingly with timestamp photos and et cetera. And in our case, and I don't know how it works with the software you're using, Tim, but for Jason and I, our customers like having the app because people don't like to use the phone nowadays. And one thing that we've noticed, it's hard not to notice, is the typical property manager is getting younger. And as they get younger, they're more comfortable with using mobile apps for everything, right? This is the DoorDash
Yes.
generation. So using mobile apps to communicate with us, not just like, hey, come tow this car, but even something like, hey, we had a plumbing leak in our parking garage. Cancel all towing, like do not tow because we're telling everybody to park all over the place because the plumber needs those cars moved. They're fixing the leak, and so they can communicate with us. And the nice thing is that reaches everybody in the company. It's not as though somebody in our company wouldn't have access to that information. That becomes an alert. So that's been really, really helpful. And I think we can all agree that the better you can communicate, not just with your customers, but if they can directly communicate with your entire team, that is also really helpful because that means that, hey, there's less of a chance that I'm going to make a mistake. because everybody has access to the information.
You know, another note with Tow Club, right? Everything the system has to offer, especially the managers using it, right? I think it has grown our business a lot more since we started using the software, and we haven't lost properties. Once they start using the software and they see how we work and the communication, they don't leave. They don't ever want to leave us. They don't want to change to another towing company. They want to stay with us because they love the software. They love what we're doing.
Definitely
that communication.
Yeah, it's sticky. It makes your customers dedicated to using it. I can attest to the same thing, Jason. So yeah, I mean, we could go on and on about this, but I think regardless of the software, if you're using a product that helps you document everything, that's going to be a net positive for the relationship between you and your customer, particularly in the private property impound side of things. I wanted to ask one final thing. I mean, I've taken up a lot of your time, guys. I really appreciate it. But you know, given the fact that we're all in a similar business and we're all obviously, Tim, you and I were talking off camera a little bit with Jason, we're kind of talking about like the differences between Texas and California, cost structures, registration fees, etc. Have you guys thought about how artificial intelligence will affect what we do?
So I put some thought into this a little bit. I think so. I think the positive effect that it would have would maybe help respond to a lot of our claims, our emails, and things like that. Even with setting up properties. I mean, there's so much you could do with AI. So I can't, and I don't know much about AI, just a little bit. So I think it could be beneficial, and then there could be some side effects to it too. But it's definitely something you need to look into for real.
Yeah, Tim, what do you think?
It's out of my wheelhouse. I leave it up to you to tell me what is good. Okay. All right.
Well,
I pass it to you.
No. I mean, I'll chime in, but so let's frame it this way. And this is the development team at Tow Club giving me tutorials over the last year or two. Is like, oh, hey, these are some things that we're gonna use. We're gonna incorporate AI into to help the user experience. But if we could picture somebody who has been towed and they go to my website for my towing company, and there's a vehicle locator feature on our website currently that's incorporated into Tow Club. They can search, they can find their vehicle, they can email all of the information, the requirements to claim the vehicle, etc. But the one thing that I always think about in the context of the type of towing that we do is I always seem to want to lower the temperature, meaning these people are angry, really angry, right? Like I've got some bullet holes in our building, that can attest to that anger. So saying that, how many times have we used the software, not towing software, but any other software, and there's been like a chat feature, right? That chat feature oftentimes in the past was like really crappy, right? Like you go in there and you want to chat, and then you realize this is not even a person. This is just some automated response. So the one thing that AI has been able to do is improve the user experience for that chat feature. In our case, in the case of Tow Club, look for that chat feature to be available to towers as some sort of a plug-in on their website to also search for cars, to also explain some basic nuances of why they were towed. So I don't want to give away too much. I know my development team is shitting their pants right now. Excuse my language, because I'm starting to reveal some things that they may not want to reveal. But I'll just attest to how AI is it's gonna make the experience, because guys, I'm sure you know this, and I'm sure you would agree. However frustrating it is for us to face angry vehicle owners who have been towed, it's frustrating. Nevertheless, it's something that we have to do. We have to interact with vehicle owners. So I've always thought, hey, if we're going to do this PPI business, which is what we do, it's not the most fun thing to face angry vehicle owners. It's also not the most fun thing for them. They got to come down to the tow yard. They got to, see this barbed wire and razor wire facility. They feel sometimes intimidated, like, oh, the tow guys, they watch these reality shows where, some tower is doing karate or, throwing somebody off a parking garage or just a bunch of nonsense that you and I, none of us in the industry actually do. So I think AI is going to help with lowering that temperature. I think it's going to help the user experience or the vehicle owner, the vehicle claim experience. So look out for that. Stay focused on updates that we're going to be rolling out this year. So that's just my 2 cents as it relates to AI. I'm hoping that ultimately it's going to help towers, specifically PPI towers, to be honest, because if you're in general towing, you don't have those challenges, right? If you're towing for motor clubs, you may have challenges, but you're not going to have those challenges where there's going to be elevated like levels of confrontation and conflict. You guys following me here as far as that goes?
Mhm.
Yeah, I always say if you don't have challenges in the towing industry, you're only towing for peanuts.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, Jason. That's a good point. Hey
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
I've taken up so much of your
No,
time.
no, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
If I got what guys, we got to talk about legislation. You know,
Let's do it.
I'm very active with Southwest Tow Operators here in
Yes.
Texas. We've been working on our legislative season is coming up. It's every 2 years, and I'm on the committee, and we already got several bills that we got to fight, and we got several things we want to pass, and a lot of it that we want to pass is rate increases because we're regulated. And
Yes.
I think that everybody in the towing industry needs to be part of their state tow association, support them, not just give them their couple $100 a year, but be involved and not complain about it. Because if you're complaining about them, then you need to get involved. You know, and I tell people, hey, I'll take your money because I'll go fight for you while you can stay in the truck and work. Become a member and let us fight for you. But I'd rather have you standing next to me when we go to the Capitol and we go to these committee meetings and we fight for $10, $3. We got a raise a couple of years ago for $1.25 for storage.
That's
But guess what? It's a raise.
no, absolutely. And I want to remind the listeners, and I know Jason probably agrees with me here. Jason and I are in California, so we have to follow essentially the same rules with respect to how we run our businesses. But I want to remind the listeners that if you're a tower and you are not feeling the urge to get involved with either the state and or federal towing associations that are out there, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Tim, thank you for bringing,
Yes.
because we're also regulated, Tim, for what it's worth, and we also, and I'll let Jason chime in here a little bit, but we also have the same frustrations with respect to that. The State Towing Association in California does a good job. I used to be involved on the Oversight Council for the State Towing Association. I know Jason and his company, they are members. My towing company, we are members. And it is important. Sometimes it feels, when I was on the Oversight Council, I used to feel this all the time and express my frustrations to the people that were on the council. Sometimes it feels as though it takes forever to get something done, and it's not happening fast enough. And the one thing that I learned since I left, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the one thing I learned was, no, that's how it is. It takes a long time, and it's a long,
Yep.
out effort to fight unreasonable attempts at regulation. Some attempts at regulation are reasonable, some are not. So it's up to the industry to get involved. Otherwise, you're going to be facing unreasonable regulation, something that hurts your ability not just to earn or make money, but also hurts your ability to serve your clients. And so your clients sometimes are left. In our case, it's property managers primarily. but sometimes they are left with regulation that prevents them from, let's say, enforcing the parking on their property. So I urge the listeners here to really get involved in the state towing associations. Jason, what do you think about that?
I mean, I agree. You should be involved in each one of those associations, right? For whatever state you're in. And I don't want to talk bad about anything in California. I love the state of California. I love the towing industry in California, but I don't think there's enough people in that association that stand up for the kind of towing we do, and it kind of just we get put over here, and that's just how I feel. And I'd like to see that committee or association stand up for all aspects of towing, especially PPI, because we deal with the most lawsuits and headaches and laws. So that's all I have to say about it.
No,
Right.
I don't disagree, Jason. I mean, obviously, the towing industry is broad, and we're specialists in private property towing, so to speak. But the industry is broad, and the amount of towers, I think, Jason, primarily the issue there is the amount of towers that do what we do. Now, I could ask 100 towing companies in California. I could do a random poll and say, hey, do you do private property towing? They're all going to say yes. But we do it exclusively. Jason, you do it exclusively. Tim, you're relatively, almost
Yes.
100% private property towing. So getting the state towing associations to direct resources at what we do specifically has been challenging. In fact, when I was on the oversight council, I was primarily in the seat of a representative for this type of towing. And it was very frustrating to me because I would preside and discuss things that had nothing to do with my specialty. And I was happy to do it because the way I looked at it is, hey, I'm part of the industry. These are my brothers. They may or may not specialize in the type of work I do. I'm gonna chime in with what I feel is best. And in my respective situation, I had come from all types of towing. So I was able to provide, some insight to all types of towing, even though that's not the type of towing I currently do. But yeah, it was challenging, Jason. And in our case in California, the vehicle code that governs the type of work we do has not been updated in, oh boy, 18 years, I think, 17, 18 years. And if you think about, okay, they wrote this 17 years ago, they wrote an update in 2007, I believe. What has happened since 2007? I mean, the smartphone. So there's all sorts of stuff in there that's not accounted for in today's sort of technology arena. And we certainly could use some updates. I think it's challenging for the industry to want to approach that because the legislators, they're not always obviously friendly to our industry, right? They view us.
It's not even not. I don't even know if it's not friendly. It's just not educated.
Well, yeah.
It's not educated that we
Thank
are
you.
a necessary facilitator for private property.
Yes.
Police can't.
Exactly.
Everyone's like, "Well, call the cops." No, the cops can't do nothing about that car with a flat tire on your private property.
Right.
And they don't understand that. They're like,
Yes.
"Oh, and educating the legislators is important."
Yeah.
And one thing I've realized being involved with Southwest tow operators over the past several years is we spend a good chunk of our time fighting bad legislation.
Yeah.
A few years ago they wanted to get rid of the first day of storage for the vehicle storage facility.
Yeah.
Well,
our landlords wouldn't give us storage.
No, that's what I was like. A lot of our cars are only there for one day.
Right.
So you're going to take our daily storage is only $22.75, or whatever,
Yeah.
and we haven't had a raise on that
in California.
Yeah. And we haven't had a raise on that in years.
Yeah. I think you guys are due. I mean, I know that operational costs in Texas are probably somewhat lower, specifically than in Northern California, but I also know that it's not cheap either. And so, again, for the listeners, get involved with your state association.
Get involved.
You know, if you don't have the time to physically get involved, contribute. It is not a waste of money to contribute.
No.
It all goes
No.
in one big pot. The state associations use that to hire lobbyists, to hire.
We have
attorneys.
listen. We have a full-time lobbyist,
Right.
and she
Right.
does an amazing job, and she knows the in and out of the Capitol,
Yeah.
and she's worth every penny that our association pays. But that all takes money.
And
Like
they're
I said,
fighting on our behalf. You know,
for everybody.
so
Listen, we
I
fight
need
for
towers to kind of appreciate that and respect the fact that, you know, the State Towing Association is always going to have the best interests of towers at large on their mind. They may and or may not always come to a conclusion that you're necessarily happy with, but at the end of the day, if you don't like it, hey, go join, go be physically,
join.
Be a
Come
part
to
of
our
it.
meetings.
Be a part of it. Yeah.
yeah, be a part of it. You know, I mean, it's easy to cry from the sidelines, right? We all,
Yes.
you know, it's like being a fan at a football game. The fans don't play, the fans don't coach, you know, and it's easy for them to gripe. So towers, be out there, get heard. Gentlemen, it's been awesome. I
Yes.
really appreciate you guys joining me. I've taken up quite a bit of your time. I want to leave the audience with my signature here. If you aren't willing to know, please don't tow. Thanks again.